Hi everyone, I'm Anisha and I'm here with Chase, Owen, Vincent, and Wiki, and today we're going to talk about socioeconomic diversity in schools. Here's a quick outline of what we will be speaking about today. First, we will give an overview on the topic and why it's important. Then we'll talk about socioeconomic diversity in schools and classrooms. We'll then move on to situations to be aware of in your classroom and factors to consider as an educator. Additionally, we will talk about strategies to understand and handle these challenges, how to promote low socioeconomic students. Then we'll quickly discuss the class activity we would like you all to participate in. And lastly, we'll share a page of additional resources. So first, let me clarify that the word socioeconomic refers to when something is related to the interaction of social and economic factors. In schools, what does socioeconomic diversity look like? Well, it's when there's a mix of students from different income levels and social backgrounds. A student's racial and/or ethnic background can be contributing factors as well. Socioeconomic diversity should be seen as a positive attribute to any school, since each student can offer unique strengths, experiences, and ideas depending on their background. Essentially, embracing these diversities creates an enriched learning environment. Now let's talk about why socioeconomic diversity in schools is important, why we should strive to build diversity in our classes, and why we should be mindful of diverse students. Socioeconomic diversity is important in schools because it encourages students to be more tolerant and respectful of differences among their peers. This is increasingly important because as they enter the modern workforce, they are likely to encounter people of many different backgrounds. Next, when students are in diverse schools, this often boosts their empathy and reduces biases and stereotypes among their peers with different socioeconomic backgrounds. You usually see students developing racial and socioeconomic stereotypes when they are educated in isolated situations. Additionally, due to the various differing perspectives at diverse schools, we see an increase in group problem-solving skills among students that come from different socioeconomic backgrounds. Lastly, students who attend schools with socioeconomic diversity tend to seek out settings that are similar later in life. They enjoy diverse company and encourage friendships among people of all backgrounds.
The first diversity about economics issue is the teaching resource and fund resource are different among schools in different areas. The schools located in the urban area can provide more subjects than schools in rural areas. For example, some schools in developed area can provide robotic courses, electronic laboratories for students to learn and use. Teacher resources are also abundant, with more experienced teachers serving in schools with economic development. In some cities, housing prices around famous schools are generally slightly higher than in other areas. This may result in more and more students with good family background enrolling in this school, and the school's resources are getting better at the same time. In contrast, those schools located in rural areas do not have enough teachers, nor do they have enough funds to support students' learning. The school cannot offer some courses due to funding issues. Compared with above, students from such rural areas have lost many learning opportunities. Socioeconomic diversity makes the teaching facilities between schools are different. Second, socioeconomic diversity can also be reflected in different students in the same classroom. Families with better economics background can afford private tutoring to help their children in learning. Their children also have more opportunities to participate in extracurricular activities. Additionally, some children may use more beautiful and delicate stationery. However, some children are even living in an unsafe family environment. There is no quiet and safe space for them to study. They may not have basic clothing to keep them warm in winter. When there are greater economic differences in a class, it may cause wealthy children to like to show off their conditions. More seriously, children will have low self-esteem when facing wealthier classmates. This psychological gap has a profound impact on students' development.
Situations to be aware of in your classroom. As Wiki touched on, insufficient resources can really hamper a child. Not having the proper income to go and pursue extracurricular activities or other social events with their peers may really relate in the student feeling ostracized from their classmates and may eventually lead to bullying. Another thing to consider in the classroom is fatigue. Not all students have a safe and calm space at home. This may cause lack of sleep, increased emotional reactivity, withdrawn participation, or acting out behavior. Perhaps it is best just to let them have a nap and recuperate themselves. Malnutrition. Many students have not eaten breakfast, lunch, or have food that consists of little to no nutrition. Diet has a large effect on student engagement, focus, and decision making. Incomplete homework. Some students may not have access to Wi-Fi, access to books, or other resources. They may work or have a part-time job or have large responsibilities that require looking after siblings. It's just good to be empathetic as the teacher to know that your students may be facing some severe challenges that affect how they perform in the classroom. So here are some factors to consider as an educator. People's experiences of poverty are diverse. There's no one situation that applies to all individuals. That being said, poverty adversely affects people's lives and students' learning in probable and identifiable ways. So by addressing some of those issues proactively, you can really make a difference in your students' learning. Inequitable conditions in schools and in classrooms further disadvantage students who live in poverty. Stereotypes about people in poverty are deeply embedded in our society and influence our mental maps. This could include people in poverty mismanage money, are in poverty by poor life choices, abuse drugs or alcohol more frequently, or are consciously taking advantage of the welfare system. Iatrogenesis is a concept that when someone is diagnosed, it makes the issue worse. So I thought this was interesting and something to consider. Although you want to foster an inclusive classroom where the students are aware of socioeconomic differences, a lot of times when youth come to school, they don't realize that they may be living in poverty until they see and hear other experiences from their classmates. So you don't want to make the issue worse by labeling someone as being impoverished. The three most common perspectives used to explain poverty include personal, individual. So this focuses on personal characteristics and say that someone is in poverty due to weak moral character or poor decisions. Cultural. This is the idea that poverty creates, sustains, and transmits its own culture. Thus, people who are born in poverty are a part of this culture and will pass that on. It's kind of this still blaming, but instead of the individual, they're blaming the culture themselves. And then there's the structural and institutional. So economic, political, social systems cause people to have limited opportunities and resources, which lead to poverty. Kind of the idea that capitalism will always have some degree of income inequality, and that's the way it is.
Okay, I will be going over some strategies to understand and handle the challenges presented by teaching students who come from low socioeconomic status homes. So first, with all our students, we want to build strong relationships. Strong relationships allow teachers to understand a student's culture, language, history, home life, and other aspects of their daily routine. Understanding these factors is vital to understanding the challenges your students face. Some tools to face these challenges. So we're going to work on our classroom management first off. We use tools such as self-check strategies and just providing students with consistency in the daily routine helps reduce stress and make school more welcoming, especially for students who struggle. Another part of classroom management is the atmosphere in your class. So a student from a low socioeconomic status home is more likely to check out or lash out if they do not feel supported. This leads us into student engagement. So if a student doesn't receive a lot of positive feedback at home, it is important they get it at school. If they're getting this positivity at school, they're more likely to be excited to participate. It's great if this comes from the teacher, but it's also valuable to provide opportunities for students to provide positive feedback to their peers. Also, providing context and making content relevant to a student's life is sure to boost their engagement. There are also specific educational resources which we can use to support these students. They may not have access to all the required resources, which may lead to late or incomplete assignments. So a few things we can do is just being available outside of class time to help. We can secure them time on computers, access to library, or maybe set them up with a partner to complete work together. All these things will help ensure students stay up to date with their coursework. Finally, let's look at family supports. Involving their families is a great way to help students succeed. It may not be easy, but the first thing to do is establish a line of communication. You may not be able to reach every student's guardian, but those you do reach are more likely to get involved. One way to open this line of communication is a parent-teacher conference. In some cases, you might have to go out of your way to make it work and meet face-to-face with the parent, but it's very valuable to be able to do so. Rob told us a great story this summer about holding parent-teacher conferences at Tim Hortons because that is where he had to go to meet these parents. It was a terrific example of being adaptable to ensure all families are involved.
Building from these previous strategies, it is crucial to use these concepts to promote low socioeconomic students towards success. One of the greatest problems low socioeconomic students face is a loss of a positive vision of the future. It seems often that social media and other organizations frequently paint negative pictures of low socioeconomic people and their communities. To counteract this, be adaptable and set high expectations, standards, and plans for each student individually, which isn't hard if you establish sound relationships within your classrooms. Students who live in poverty need to know that they have a meaningful life and that they can succeed just like their affluent counterparts. Helping students rewrite their internal narrative is a great way to go about promoting this message. Every student, even confident ones, have some sort of story that they tell themselves. For example, if a student begins to struggle with math, then that's the story they tell themselves. In these situations, teachers can provide a counter-narrative by saying something like, "You know what? You are capable." Point out to the student, "I saw you do X during reading time. I know you're capable." Or, "Remember that time when you did X?" Something like that. This isn't just an empty pep talk. The counter-narrative is the teacher actually reminding the students and pointing out areas of progress or success to help the student remember and transfer those skills. There are many fun and uplifting activities that you can also do to incorporate this into your classroom. Some teachers even begin every morning by reading an uplifting piece of poetry that gets their students into the right frame of mind. Other teachers have created power song playlists. It's just like how hockey players have their warm-up music that gets them pumped up, or how boxers have their music that gets them in the zone. Do something that creates a narrative for students that says, "I'm capable. This is how I try, and this is me moving forward." So, to wrap this up, what's crucial to remember is that every student has assets. We can't change poverty, and we aren't going to be able to change it, but we can certainly go about creating a better atmosphere of support that will benefit all students. Now, after listening to our presentation, we know you're smarter. So to put everyone's knowledge to the test, we have an activity plan for you. We have put a scenario into a forum that involves students not having the required materials for class. This scenario is great because it dives into multiple issues, both academic and social, that low socioeconomic status students potentially face. Furthermore, this is a real scenario that you could come across when you have a classroom of your own. So, read the scenario, then post a comment into the forum about your perceptions of the students and how you would handle the fact that they don't have the required class materials. We'll post a comment labeled "Answer" that you can open and read after you have contributed your thoughts. Feel free to make another comment after reading the answer to talk about if you agree, or to continue a discussion on something a classmate has mentioned. We look forward to reading your thoughts.
We wanted to end this presentation by saying that the world we live in is growing more and more diverse by the day, and succeeding in modern times requires having experience with socioeconomic diversity. Taking this into consideration when you plan for your classroom can prepare students for adult life where most of our society comes from a range of different backgrounds and viewpoints. The most essential first step is believing that socioeconomic diversity is important, and that it matters. While there are clearly many benefits associated with socioeconomic diversity, the effect it has on students highly depends on how it is acknowledged in your classroom. If you like this presentation and want some further information on this topic, we have put together these supplementary resources. There's a link to a YouTube playlist with a few videos that go deeper into this issue and that also offer some really interesting perspectives on socioeconomic diversity in schools. We have also included a few links with additional knowledge on this topic as well, so be sure to check them out. We hope you guys enjoyed this presentation and learned something new. As always, if you have any questions about our presentation, please do not hesitate to reach out to any of us. We would be happy to chat with you about socioeconomic diversity and how you can embrace it in your classrooms. Thanks for watching and have an awesome day.